I knew something was wrong the second I stepped into the operations hub that rainy Seattle morning. The overhead lights hummed softly above rows of monitors tracking container ships slicing through the Pacific. But my personal binder, the one I kept for emergency manual overrides, sat slightly askew on the corner shelf. It hadn't been touched in over a year. Everything important lived digitally now, encrypted and version-controlled, yet someone had rifled through the physical copy. My pulse ticked up just a notch as I scanned the room. Colleagues hunched over keyboards, voices low in the usual morning rhythm of port updates and customs queries. But there she was, Brooke Caldwell, perched on the edge of a dispatch desk, laughing a touch too brightly at something one of the juniors said. Her fresh MBA shine still clung to her tailored blouse, perfect waves in her hair, heels that clicked with confidence even on concrete floors. 7 years I'd poured into this company, Apex Freight Solutions, turning a regional operation into a powerhouse handling millions in international cargo through Tacoma and Seattle ports. I hadn't chased glory. Freight doesn't wait for applause. One misstep in routing, and refrigerated goods spoil under the sun, or bonded shipments trigger federal audits that could bury us in fines. My systems weren't flashy dashboards with TikTok flair. They were steel-reinforced, typhoon-adjusted vessel schedules, layered risk buffers for labor strikes at Singapore or Shanghai, precise rail-to-container handoffs, diagrams that breathed reliability. Brooke had arrived 6 months earlier as the owner's daughter, armed with buzzwords like digital transformation and agile supply chains. She'd called my layered protocols charming but outdated during her first all-hands. That first meeting still lingered in my mind. She'd extended her hand across the conference table like she was granting an audience. Brooke Caldwell, excited to modernize things here. We'll be fully cloud-native soon. Her eyes had flicked to my triple-monitor setup, lingering on the proprietary routing software I'd coded myself. I nodded politely, said little. Arguing with disruption enthusiasts rarely worked. But I noticed how her questions during shadowing sessions weren't about optimizing flows. They probed access logs, backup locations, printed diagrams, security protocols. Subtle, but insistent. I played along at first. Every time she hovered near my station, I opened the same file, optimized routing prototype v4. It looked pristine, color-coded nodes, sleek visualizations, projected time savings that would impress any executive. But it was a carefully constructed illusion. Routes funneled high-value perishables through Port Langston during known backlog windows. It stripped critical triple redundancy buffers I'd built over months, skipped recalibration steps for reefers that guaranteed spoilage on long hauls. On paper, it shaved hours and costs. In reality, it was a slow-motion derailment waiting for the wrong eyes. The real architecture? Buried in a deliberately misspelled folder on an air-gapped drive, updated nightly with rotating encryption tied to daily customs manifests. Brooke wouldn't spot the difference. She treated logistics like a drag-and-drop app, not the high-stakes chess it was where one wrong move risked millions, international incidents. Or worse, a calendar invite popped up mid-morning, joint strategy presentation to global cargo partners, Friday 10 a.m. My stomach tightened. Global Cargo was our anchor client, moving more volume than the next 3 combined through our Pacific Northwest gateways. I'd always led these. But the email listed Brooke as presenter, excited to demonstrate our streamlined approach. No mention of me beyond supporting materials if needed. That confirmed it. She'd made her play. Hours later, a system alert pinged, unauthorized remote access from her device at 2:17 a.m. She'd opened the decoy, downloaded it clean. No edits. Just theft wrapped in ambition. I didn't panic or report it. Instead, I grabbed a latte from the corner cafe across the street, the rain pattering on the awning, and layered one more elegant flaw into the decoy, A route tweak that violated bonded cargo rules in 2 jurisdictions but looked like genius efficiency on a slide. By Thursday, Brooke strode through the warehouse like she owned the future. Tablet in hand, she barked orders about flow velocity and data ecosystems. Juniors exchanged uneasy glances. One veteran dispatcher, Marcus, muttered to me, "Don't we usually buffer twice around monsoon risks in the South China Sea?" Brooke overheard and waved it off with a bright smile. Old fears padding the margins. This is modern logistics, lean and mean. I smiled inwardly. Fear kept cargo safe. Fear of a misstamp in Ho Chi Minh City turning into a 10-day hold and reports that could blacklist us. But I stayed silent. Quietly, I emailed the CEO. Request observation slot for global cargo pitch. Quality assurance. No accusations. Just presence. When the trap closed, I wanted witnesses. Brooke passed my desk that afternoon, humming, her blazer sharp, perfume strong enough to linger. Behind her, an assistant wheeled a cart of branded folders stamped with her new gold standard, the decoy printed large. She handed one to a coordinator. Winking. Trust the model. No one corrected her. She was the boss's daughter. Untouchable in her mind. That night, lying in my apartment overlooking the sound, I replayed the months leading here. Brooke circling my screens. Borrowing credentials just to check one workflow. Her pattern screamed shortcut artist. So I'd built the sandbox masterpiece. Mirrored flows laced with fatal emissions. Misaligned Gibraltar customs windows. Reversed codes for dual freight in Vietnam. Warehouse assignments to shuttered facilities. It looked revolutionary. Until deployed. She thought she'd stolen the crown jewel. Instead, she'd grabbed a map to her undoing. Logistics isn't glamorous. Screw it up. And clients like Global Cargo, precision operators in tailored suits, walk away forever. Schedules shatter. Fines mount. Reputations evaporate. Brooke was about to learn that the hard way. The days blurred into a tense rhythm as Friday approached. I kept my head down, refining the real plan nightly on that disconnected drive. Live port data fed in, updated clearance cycles from APAC partners, seasonal vessel adjustments for winter swells off the coast. Every change encrypted, watermarked subtly. Meanwhile, Brooke rehearsed in her glass-walled office, her voice carrying through the hub as she drilled buzzwords with her assistant. Proactive alignment. Redundancy pruning. Digitized orchestration. From my desk, I caught glimpses, her pointing at slides copied straight from the decoy. Glowing heat maps promising 18% faster throughput. I felt a flicker of something, pity. Maybe for the team. Rosa, the sharp new dispatcher, raised valid points in all hands. Langston still flagged for reefer delays. Running perishables there without buffers? Brooke cut her off smoothly. We're rethinking assumptions. Trust the model. Rosa looked my way, confusion in her eyes. I nodded faintly. Let it play. Marcus stayed quiet, but I saw his jaw tighten. They'd built careers on caution. Brooke sold sleekness. I passed her office late one evening. She didn't notice me in the doorway. Practicing solo. She gestured dramatically at her screen. This is where we move beyond legacy duct tape fixes. Sleek. Modern. Duct tape. I nearly chuckled aloud. You don't shift millions of tons across oceans with aesthetics. You do it with paranoia, grit, and respect for the unseen forces, customs agents, crane backlogs, geopolitical ripples. One skipped recalibration, and high-value produce rots, costing 6 figures and trust. She'd convinced herself she'd reinvented freight. Now she prepped to sell it to Global Cargo partners, one of the shrewdest on the West Coast. Detail-obsessed. They audited every layer. Miss a bonded window by hours. and accounts vanished. I returned to my station, revised the decoy's timestamp to feel fresh, feeding her confirmation bias. Let her believe she'd snagged the latest. Weeks earlier, the signs had piled up. She'd leaned against a copier outside my office, pretending boredom while staring at my reroute adjustments for storm contingencies. I'd blurred the screen deliberately. Her head tilted, eyes narrowing like she was decoding treasure. That's when I knew. Give her something worth stealing. Brooke wasn't stupid. She was dangerously half-smart, enough to be bold, not enough to grasp consequences. She viewed freight as glorified traffic control, once quipping to finance that it was all dashboards. So I engineered the decoy from my real template, added fake efficiencies she'd adore, express lanes through congested zones, removed backups that cluttered the flow. Small poisons, shifted import buffers to close facilities, mislabeled codes that would trigger holds in Vietnam. Named it flashily. The authentic version stayed hidden, its dynamic key synced to manifests. She'd never find it. She'd tested waters. Show me that chart again? Eager eyes. What's the software? Approved. I fed vague proprietary talk. She pushed for folder access for alignment. Watched her click into subfolders, hover, then lock onto the decoy. For minutes staring. Then away. Bait taken. Tuesday. She sauntered past, cross-checked some routes. Streamlining by Q3. Your files helped kickstart it. Her tone dripped ownership. She wasn't learning. She aimed to leapfrog fast-track to VP on my back. The decoy promised better metrics. Bragging rights. Minus reality. A mirror house of illusions. Morning of the pitch. Tension thickened the air. Brooke rallied the warehouse like a coach. Tomorrow we turn the page with global cargo. Our moment. Heels echoed. Team clapped hesitantly. She projected the deck on a makeshift screen between packing stations. Reduced drag by 18%. Glowing arrows highlighted her streamlined paths, my graphics, but laced with traps. 3 ports she chose sat in active labor disputes. Customs timelines off by a day. Crown route. A restricted dock and used commercially since 2021. Juniors looked stunned. Rosa tried again. Langston delays? Brooke. Rethinking old fears. Trust the model. Brian questioned bonded access, South Corridor. Dismissed with streamlined compliance. She believed her own hype, genuinely thought she'd upgraded the game. I leaned against the wall, coffee in hand, watching slide after slide. Her counterfeit confidence. I slipped out midway, emailed the real signed plan to myself for the meeting, and confirmed CEO attendance. No drama. When pressure hit, only substance endured. That evening on my porch, bourbon in hand, sun dipping behind grain silos near the port, I reflected. She'd hijacked what she saw as a presentation. I protected a philosophy. Freight demanded foresight, not ego. Obsidian, no. Global cargo were sharks. They'd smell flaws instantly. Brooke rehearsed buzzwords, I held architecture. The map she carried led straight to exposure. Friday arrived under gray Seattle skies. The kind that mirrored the knot in my gut. I dressed sharp but understated. Navy blouse. Slacks. Hair pulled back, ready for the boardroom without drawing eyes. The hub buzzed with nervous energy. Brooke had printed extra folders, her assistant distributing them like sacred texts. Big day, she announced to anyone listening. Selfie in the mirror with tablet raised. Showing the old ways how it's done. I arrived early, claimed my usual back corner seat near the wall for unobtrusive observation. The CEO entered quietly, claiming the far end, expression neutral. He'd seen Brooke's enthusiasm before but knew global cargo stakes. 4 reps arrived precisely at 10:02, gray suits, navy ties, thick binders, Hard stares. No small talk. No coffee pleasantries. These were veterans who priced fuel volatility, rail bottlenecks, and treaty shifts into every decision. They'd outlasted trends Brooke chased. "Welcome," Brooke chirped, striding to the head like she'd invented shipping. Hair in a tight professional bun. Shoulder-padded blazer, giving her a polished edge. Excited to unveil our next-gen routing, more agile. Intelligent. Built for velocity. She clicked the first slide, flow map lifted verbatim from the decoy. I stayed motionless. Breathing steady. Slide 2 launched her spiel on optimizing zones. Cutting redundancy for transit velocity. Buzzwords flowed smoothly, but hollow, no depth, like reciting a recipe untasted. Initial nods from the global cargo team. Polite protocol. Slide 4, she highlighted a glowing arc through South Asia corridors. Shave 14 hours via priority lane here. Pride beamed. The lead analyst, a sharp-eyed man named Patel, raised an eyebrow. Pen pausing. Primary route via Langston and Lianho Junction? Brooke nodded eagerly. Underutilized capacity. Patel tapped his binder calmly. Langston lacks current bonded clearance for mixed manifests. Permit lapsed last quarter. Aware of that, Brooke's hand froze mid-gesture. It's optimized for speed. Her laugh followed. A beat too loud. Patel's expression shifted, annoyed amusement. Logistics value lies in anticipating variables up front, not adapting reactively. Air thickened. Brooke glanced at the CEO. He leaned back slowly. Unreadable. Slide 6, redundancy pruning. She touted single streamline paths. No legacy fallbacks. A legal rep from Global Cargo crossed her arms, addressing the CEO directly. Last year's charts had 3 stage backups. Where are they? Brooke shuffle notes. Outdated. This is leaner. Patel. This is exposed. Silence descended. Eyes turned to the CEO. He tilted his head toward me. Care to clarify?
My voice stayed even.
This proposal doesn't match current vetted operations. The file presented lacks bonded alignments, updated cycles, proper architecture. I stood, crossed to the table, placed my slim folder before Patel. Current plan here, controlled, signed, timestamped, prepared but apparently not shared. Patel opened it, scanned, nodded. This is logistics. The CEO's quiet command followed. You're excused. Brooke. She gathered her things mechanically, face pale, and exited without protest. The room exhaled. But the questions intensified. Reynolds, the VP, rotated his tablet. This contradicts last year's redundancy commitments. Eliminates tiers. Proposes flagged skips. Legal rep. 6-figure fines per container. Exposure. Brooke had frozen earlier, but now the full weight hit. The CEO turned to me. Explain. I detailed. Decoy was testing sandbox. Unauthorized. Real version accounted for all protocols. They poured over pages, bonded rotations. Fallback tiers reinstated. Whistles. Murmurs. This would have prevented our last Singapore delay, the legal lead noted flatly. Reynolds nodded decisively. Precision we expect. They stood in unison. Handshakes firm. Renewal terms promised. Door closed. CO exhaled. Met my eyes. She won't return to client ops. A statement. Correction made. No gloating. Just realignment. By afternoon. Accesses revoked. Folders purged. I sketched new structures, tiered permissions, logged edits, watermarks, checksums, dual auth, segmented silos. No more casual peaks. The CEO signed off fully. New title followed, Director of Operational Strategy and Security. Not victory's rush, but restoration. The boardroom emptied, leaving echoes of decisive footsteps. Reynolds lingered just long enough. That contingency layer? That's why we're renewing full volume. Built for pressure, not theory. His praise was clipped. Earned no fanfare. Global Cargo didn't do pleasantries. They extended contracts. Alone with the CEO, he studied me across the polished table. We've been too loose. Firewalls. Compensation. Structure. Talk soon. He meant organizational barriers between titles and competence, inheritance and expertise. He wanted my sign-off on every crossing ocean route. I nodded. Gravity returned to its place. That evening, systems tightened. Remote access stripped from Brooks' accounts.
Assistant reassigned.
Decoy remnants deleted. I didn't orchestrate revenge. Necessity drove it. Dual authentication rolled out. Legacy logins killed. Folder trees restructured in ops-only codes. Watermarks on sensitive files. Hidden checksums detecting tampering. Edits traceable by user and timestamp. No more mystery versions or whispered assumptions. The CEO stopped by my new office, glass walls, locking door. You built resilience, not just routes. We missed it. Plaque mounted next morning, steel etched. No polish. If you steal a plan, understand it. New hires paused to read. Questions sharpened afterward. Brooks' LinkedIn later showed consulting on modernization elsewhere. I didn't track her. No need. My focus stayed on pressure-tested systems, medical cargo, overrides, Asia-Pacific tax adjustments, zero-hour mitigations. 3 weeks later, another global cargo session ran flawlessly. COO arrived early. Scanned the room. Guy with the trapdoor plan here? I raised a hand. He grinned. Smart. Most miss the stakes. We restructured routes collaboratively. Scenarios met mitigations. He lingered. That unseen folder? Secured the deal. CEO pass later. Plaque reminds what the job means. Credibility embedded now. Not assumed. I hadn't sought cinematic payback. Brooke hijacked philosophy. Copied into competence. Bluffed authority. Almost succeeded. If Global Cargo missed the questions, if Reynolds hadn't probed, loss would have fallen on the architect who left doors open. Now welded shut. Every submission digitally signed. Human traced. Touch a file? Alert. Reroute?
Triple checks.
Legacy. Resilience over revenge. Someday another ambitious newcomer arrives with ideas. They'll meet structure too robust to bend, built on foresight, not ego. Brooke chased the face on the slide. I ensured it never failed. Months later, the hub hummed with renewed order. Morning started with emailed system checks, no fluff, pure uptime and logs. The assistant once tied to Brooke now asked substantive questions, dressed professionally, contributed meaningfully. Difference stark, substance over show. I revoked even my broad access initially, rethinking openness. After Brooke waltzed through years of work like inspiration fodder, I saw the rot, access as suggestion, not privilege. Shut it down comprehensively. Segmented silos. Personal device locks. Mandatory reviews. Everything deliberate. Traceable. This wasn't punishment. It was honoring the freight, millions of tons demanding excellence. Companies forget builders when dazzled by flash. Brooke embodied the symptom. Plug-and-play delusions. Buzzword downloads. She entered with slides. I delivered systems. Pressure revealed truth. One quiet afternoon, reviewing a new medical-grade override, I paused at the etched plaque. New hires lingered longer now, asking why backups mattered, how bonded rules protected everyone. Better questions. may be enough. The moral lingers like port fog, in family businesses or any hierarchy. Merit must anchor authority. Nepotism unchecked invites collapse. Shortcuts in critical fields don't modernize, they endanger. Who really builds what lasts? Those who respect the terrain, not those who claim the map without walking it. What would you do if your life's work was stolen for a spotlight moment? Would you expose the flaw quietly? Or let reality teach the hardest lesson? The system now ensures the latter never blindsides us again.